Last night, Julio Teheran and the Braves bullpen held the major's highest scoring offense to only 2 runs, setting the stage for ninth-inning drama. Ground ball, Braves handle on it, and Roten Simmons walks us off.
Celebrate, boys, and enjoy it.
Now the Braves hand the ball to Shelby Miller as they take on Toronto's marquee addition, ace David Price. Another great pitching duel tonight on Sports South. It's fun playing the role of the spoiler, and Andrelton Simmons was last night's hitting hero for the Braves. Atlanta got it done late against the Toronto Blue Jays, a first-place team in the East, and the Braves would love to do it again to Toronto in Game 2 tonight. Welcome back to Turner Field. What a matchup we have for you here in Atlanta, Georgia. Great matchup. David Price for Toronto, and Shelby Miller gets the ball for the Braves.
This is marquee stuff tonight with these two guys going at it, two of the better lefties and righties in baseball. David Price was acquired by the Blue Jays from the Detroit Tigers, and he's been lights out for them. He's gone 6-1 with a real low ERA. I saw another stat on him too that really blew me away. He's not given up a stolen base this year, and only 2 caught stealing. So he does do a good job of holding runners, and there are the numbers with the Blue Jays. 2.28 ERA, tons of strikeouts, but check out the run support. 8.3 runs of support per game. On the other hand, there's a guy that doesn't get any run support. In fact, the worst run support in all of baseball, and that's our Shelby Miller. Shelby Miller's pitched great all year long. He's still in the top 10 in ERA, blowing people away. This is his last start against the Mets. So tonight, he knows that runs are going to be hard to come by against David Price. He's going to have to throw up some zeros if he can. And there's the ugly numbers for this guy. Bless his heart. 1 run of support or less in 18 of his 29 starts this year. Are you kidding me? It's even worse here at home. However, good numbers against the Blue Jays, including a win earlier this year. Let's hang our hat on that.
Should be a great ball game in Atlanta tonight. It's always a special day when we celebrate Roberto Clemente Day. Jason Grilli is the Atlanta Braves Roberto Clemente Award nominee. He was honored before the game tonight, and Jen Hillworth will talk about that when we come back to Turner Field right after this.
Field, who you will see in just a moment. Hey everybody, I'm Jen Hildreth, and I know that when we were in Cooperstown earlier this year talking to John Smoltz, he talked about how much it meant to him to win the Clemente Award. He won it in 2005. He was the last Brave to win it, but this year's honoree is a guy who hasn't been able to get on the field, but he's still been busy in the community. That would be Jason Grilli. How great is it to see him back here at Turner Field, honored for his work? He is the Braves nominee for the Clemente Award, and I had a chance to catch up to him and ask him what this type of recognition means.
Yeah, I just have a soft spot for feeding, children and families that are hungry. Something that you can see instant gratification with, and it's awesome to be recognized as a good player. But I think Roberto Clemente set the stage because he was a great player, but he was a better human being, and just to follow some good humanitarian. Accolades like he had, it's easy to do when you have a platform like this, and just try to bring awareness to things that are near and dear to your heart. So that's mine, and I'm tickled and humbled that somebody recognized me for just doing something that I would do anyways.
Jason told me his recovery is going well. He's on schedule, ready for that fresh start in the spring, and that's why he's got that fresh haircut as well. Quite the pitching matchup tonight between these two teams. Braves fans know to throw out the record when it comes to Shelby Miller. First pitch coming up after this.
Back in Atlanta, it's the Braves and the Blue Jays. Toronto's lost back-to-back games for the first time in a month. And enough is enough for their skipper, John Gibbons. One very big addition to their lineup. Edwin Encarnacion, with a sore left finger, is back in the lineup at first base. He's their cleanup man. He's had a big year. And Shelby Miller can't wait to face these Blue Jays again.
And for Shelby Miller, it'll be his 30th start of the year, and he's had good success against the Blue Jays, both in June of 2014 when he threw a 3-hit complete game shutout at them, and earlier this year on the 19th of April when he beat them 5-2. He walked 3 in that game, and that leads us to the 4 keys to pitching success tonight. First of all, second time through the order. He can blow through everybody the first time through and not even look back. Second time, there's been some adjustments made, some that he will have to make tonight. And the no-walk zone. He has walked 5 in his last 10 innings of work over his last 2 starts. This is not a team you can do that with and live to tell about it. Try not to issue any free passes if you can help it.
pitch count got Julio Teheran to a certain degree last night. We noticed Toronto fouled off a lot of pitches. Shelby at times has had high pitch innings too.
Right. Yeah, that will be part of the concern tonight too against this good hitting ball club that has another one of their studs in there in Encarnacion.
Ben Revere's the spark plug at the top of the Toronto offense, hitting .325 for the season. He was 0 for 5 in the lid lifter last night. And Miller fires a strike and we're underway. Comfortable night. Cloudy skies. Gentle breeze blowing in. It's 75 degrees. Kind of humid in Atlanta this evening. And quickly 0-2 to Revere. Made him move his feet. 1 ball, 2 strikes. As I mentioned, the Jays have lost back-to-back games for the first time since August 14th and 15th. They've scored 2 runs in their last 2 games. That is not like John Gibbons' offense.
Yeah, they got shut out in New York their last game.
Tanaka got him, and then Julio Teheran. Boy, was he good last night for the Braves.
Yeah. Like you said, though, the pitch count took a toll on him. Shortened his outing, and then the bullpen was as good as they've been in probably 6 weeks last night. 3 shutout innings. No hits or runs.
That's why Julio is smiling today. And the Braves are as well, trying to win back-to-back games for the first time in a long time for Atlanta.
Pretty good cutter right there, and almost nipped Revere on the way by, who took an 0 for 5 last night.
And there's his first hit, a 2-strike shot to center field. Cameron Maybin cuts it off. Revere's first hit of the series. And he's a fast man, so keep an eye on Big Ben Revere. Here's a look at the CPI Atlanta defense. CPI security, that is. Good to have Cameron Maybin back patrolling center field. Garcia back into third base for the Braves. Daniel Castro with a lefty on the mound gets the start at second. And another important start for Christian Bethancourt behind the plate. Josh Donaldson might be the MVP of the American League. And it's a towering fly ball foul and out of play. 38 home runs for Donaldson. He's hit 13 homers in the first inning. And you do not want to fall behind David Price if you can at all avoid it.
Absolutely not. I think the first run of the ball game is going to be real important to either side.
Strike 2 from Shelby Miller. Donaldson played at Auburn. He was a catcher there. The Cubs drafted him, traded him to Oakland. Now he's in Toronto. And he missed the breaking ball. That gave him some trouble last night. So that scouting report continues. Donaldson is strikeout victim number 1.
He made a good pitch on strike 2, down and away. So he threw the next pitch, cutter, to that same spot and had it move away from him. And a wave and a miss.
1 on 1 out. Here's Jose Bautista. He was hitless last night, 0 for 4. Something off speed, in for a strike. I thought you made a great point last night. Pitchers want to throw their fastball. They want to establish it. Tough team to do that against.
A very good fastball hitting ball club. You've got to hit your marks, as we said with Julio, with your off speed secondary pitches.
That's cracked toward left, and a long run. Swisher won't get there. That's up against the wall. Here comes Rivera around third. He is going to score. Bautista doubles him home, and it's 1-0 Toronto.
That didn't sound like he hit that well, and yet strong enough to split the gap. He just hit it in a perfect place, kind of fought it off. That pitch was riding up and in on him. Nick played it off the wall as quickly as he could, but Revere runs too well to keep him from scoring from first. So there is that first run.
Toronto 56-21 when they score first. And Bautista now 102 runs batted in. And here's our first look at Edwin Encarnacion. And he was swinging for the fences, and that left hand came off the bat. It's the left middle finger that's given Encarnacion some trouble. And after that mighty clout, the hand came flying off the bat.
It's the big knuckle on his finger. It's something that was hurt earlier in the year from getting jammed. It got better. He was okay. And then he re-aggravated it last week.
No balls and a strike. Well, what a loose, fluid setup Encarnacion has. There seemingly is no tension as he stands in the batter's box. Just constant movement.
Well, he's like Bautista. And you referred to that last night about how we were talking about Bautista's career and how it got turned around in a huge way when he went to Toronto. Same with Encarnacion after he started his career with Cincinnati. He was a good player, solid player, but not to any extent like we're seeing now. And here's our first trip to the mound with a runner at second.
Yeah, Encarnacion was up and down between the Reds and their AAA Louisville club for 5 years, and then he was finally traded to Toronto, and that was the deal for Scott Rowland, if memory serves. It was July 31st, 2009, and he has taken off north of the border since. And that's outside to Encarnacion. 2 balls and a strike. Very impressive year for the Toronto first baseman. He's reached base in 42 consecutive games.
Isn't that amazing? He's driven in 45 runs over that 42 game stretch.
Sharply hit, and that's into left field. Bautista will be stopped at third, and nothing wrong with a hand on that solid hit to left field by Encarnacion. So it's 43 straight he has reached, and big trouble for Toronto. First and third, one out.
Target was away. Fastball was in the middle, running back to Encarnacion, and barreled it through the hole. And a guy coming to the plate now who's had real good numbers against Shelby in his career.
Russell Martin is their catcher, 6 for 19 with 2 homers. Martin saw him a lot when he was with the Pirates. Russell doesn't have the highest batting average, but boy, he's put up some impressive numbers. 19 homers, 64 knocked in. First among all catchers in extra base hits, third in homers and RBIs in the big leagues. And that one is looped over third. That's in for a hit. Bautista will score. Encarnacion's on his way to third. They're going to bring him around. The relay throw toward the plate is going to be late. It was off the helmet of Encarnacion, who's laying flat on his back at the plate. And all the way around to third base is Russell Martin, and Toronto leads 3-0.
They better keep an eye on Encarnacion. He may be a little woozy. He's pointing right to the back of his head where he got hit. Another pitch that was supposed to be away, running back to Martin, and again good numbers against Shelby. Breaks that one into the corner. And here is Encarnacion being waved home. And Andrelton Simmons hit him right in the back of the head with that throw. Bethencourt was trying to get over there to catch it. Not only did he get hit in the back of the head, he got a face wash from the glove too. It's just like that. It's 3-0.
Which is not what Shelby Miller had in mind tonight. So that's a double for Russell Martin. Give him 2 RBIs, and Encarnacion comes home on an E6, or he takes third on the E6. And Ryan Goins is the batter. Three 0 Blue Jays on 4 hits. That's hard hit and into center field. Maben retreats, and that's deep enough to bring home Martin. A well struck line drive sacrifice fly. Well, run support, you talked about it. David Price gets a ton. With Toronto, he's getting over 8 runs a game of support. He's halfway there, and the Jays aren't through hitting in the first inning.
Shelby's been running through teams the first time through the order with strikeouts, a few walks along the way, but he has been blowing people away. Not this team. You saw those fastballs running back to Martin and to Encarnacion. They don't miss those fastballs on the inner third.
So Kevin Pillar is in the box. Pillar, the Toronto center fielder. He was 1 for 4 last night. And taken low. 2 balls and a strike. Full count. Pillar right on that pitch at 93 miles an hour. The Jays got a break last night. They lost to the Braves, but the Yankees were beaten. So another day off the schedule, another missed opportunity for New York to gain ground in the division. Jays do play the Yankees one more time. This one's popped up in front of the Braves dugout, and that'll retire the side. The Jays came to the first inning a little angry after scoring just 2 runs last night. They've scored 4 for David Price, who has yet to throw a pitch. Counter against big stud left-hander David Price. Here's the Atlanta Academy Sports and Outdoors lineup. Bethencourt gets a start. Cameron Maybin's back in the starting 9, and tough customer, but Joe, maybe we're getting David Price in the right place.
Could be. 15 road starts this year. 2-10-2 with a 2.10 ERA, 2.19 ERA. One of the things about David Price is pitching on the road. His record, 58-24 lifetime, 707 winning percentage. That's #1 on the road among active pitchers.
Nick Markakis' first pitch rips it into the right field corner. There's how you answer 4 in the first. And Nick's on his way to second with his 37th double. Here we go. David Price allows Nick Markakis to reach for Atlanta, his 3rd hit of the series.
Left-handers have actually hit him better than right-handers. They have a 276 average against Price. Right-handers, which the Braves are loading up the lineup tonight with right-handers, are only hitting 182 against him.
What a year Markakis continues to have for the Braves. And now Daniel Castro batting and playing second tonight, starting for the 13th time. See if he can poke one past Encarnacion and bring home Markakis. He tried to, and Encarnacion plays the one-hopper and chases Markakis to third base. Productive out, and Freddie Freeman's the batter. 2 pitches for Price, and he's on his 3rd hitter of the game.
Be nice to get one of those back right here.
Jays put on a shift for Freddie Freeman, who's 5 for 15 at the plate against Toronto. Lay down a butt if you want. Got the whole left side of the infield. Instead, he scalds one toward left. There's the catch. Markakis tags. Here comes the throw to the plate. It will be late, and the Braves do get one of those runs back. Kind of like the pace.
Yeah.
Price has thrown 3 pitches. He's going to see his 4th hitter. And Atlanta's on the board on a sac fly.
There's a slight answer, but it's an answer. Gives the Braves offense a little confidence that they can put something together against David.
Adonis Garcia takes a strike. Mark Burley pitched last night for the Blue Jays, and we mentioned several times how quickly he works. That is not the case with David Price. As this one's lined to short, and a leaping grab made there by Ryan Goins, and that retires the side. 4 hitters, 5 pitches for David Price. 4-1 game. That's the fate of Shelby Miller and David Price as we move to inning number 2. Tonight's broadcast is on AFN, the American Forces Network, broadcasting to the U.S. Armed Forces, serving in 175 countries and aboard ships at sea. They're watching around the world in Iraq, Germany, Italy, Southwest Asia, South Korea, and Japan. We welcome all of our men and women of the military to Atlanta tonight, and thank you so very much for your service. Joe Simpson, Chip Carey from Turner Field, Game 2, Braves and Blue Jays.
Yeah, we wish you were here. It's a nice night.
Cliff Pennington is a little late as Shelby Miller starts inning number 2. Pennington, Price, and Revere are up for the Blue Jays. And a bouncing ball foul and out of play. Jays were very active around the trading deadline. They've made some other pickups in August and September. Pennington's one of them. Came over from the Diamondbacks. And a pop fly foul. They needed some middle infield depth. A couple of key injuries, Joe, have Toronto somewhat concerned over the next couple of weeks, most notably Troy Tulowitzki.
Yeah, but they've gotten some veteran guys like Pennington and like Darwin Barney, who have been around for a while and know how to play until Tulo can come back.
Tulowitzki hurt his shoulder blade Saturday against the Yankees, a collision with Kevin Pillar. Just an odd looking play, and it's going to take at least 2 weeks for Tulowitzki to be able to come back and play, as Pennington's down on strikes. Good start for Miller in the second. 1 up, 1 down for David Price.
Last night we were talking about some of those additions they've picked up, some under the radar. One guy I failed to mention out of their bullpen is LaTroy Hawkins. And I heard a great story about when he first got to Toronto. One of their bullpen mates was throwing on a side session, and there were 2 of them throwing. One guy got through.
Price put it in play, but he's going to be an easy out.
And as the rest of the bullpen was about to walk off and head back to the clubhouse, LaTroy Hawkins says, hold on, hold on. We don't leave till everybody's done. And immediately made his mark on their bullpen to stick together and wait till everybody's finished throwing before you go back to the dugout, or the clubhouse, as it were.
I think LaTroy's the oldest player still active.
I think he might be
42. As Ben Revere will hit for a second time, he's singled the strike ball game. Well, LaTroy Hawkins has had an impact on the American League East race. He certainly had an impact on the National League East race too. He's the guy that helped Familia figure out his split finger pitch with the New York Mets, and that has made a world of difference for the New York closer. 4-1 Toronto, bases empty in the second. Ben Revere takes a look outside. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Revere had been 1 for 13 against Shelby before his leadoff single.
That one is under the glove of Andrelton Simmons and into center field.
Andrelton doesn't make many errors. I don't know when the last time was he made 2 errors in a game. He was charged with a throwing error in the first inning when that ball hit Encarnacion in the helmet. Errors number 5 and 6 for the year have come in this game in the first 2 innings.
So that adds to the pitch count of Shelby Miller and also forces him to pitch to Josh Donaldson with a man aboard. And he fouled it straight back, strike 1. That's upstairs and missed badly. 1 ball, 1 strike. There's the breaking ball again.
Nice follow-up, too, after the pitch up and in. Donaldson wants a little payback. He's ready to hit one a mile. And he got an off-speed breaking ball way out in front again. Try the slider again, too.
Revere's running. The pitch bounced to the left side. And the toss across is in time, and that'll retire the side. No runs, no hits, an error, and a man left. 4-1 Blue Jays in the second.
Maben will be up next, and a lot of people happy to see Maben back in the lineup after he missed several games with that scratch on his left eye. And I talked to Cameron today. He said, I feel good. Everybody's been asking me that. How am I feeling? I feel like I should be limping around the clubhouse or something, but I'm good. I've just had to be patient and wait for the eye to get better. He said it was actually bothering him. He thinks he scratched it about 4 days before he let anybody know and came out of the game, but he's just had to be patient, wait for his chance to get back out there. It sounds like patience is not one of the top virtues for Mr. Maben, but he's working on it.
Well, that's a great report, Jen. Thank you. Patience has a bit of virtue for the Braves in the first inning against David Price. 4 hitters were up. He threw 5 pitches. The Braves have a run. Let's see what Swisher has in mind leading off the second inning. He's seen David Price a lot from his American League days. And Nick 12 for 40 with a home run against this veteran left-hander who won his 100th game earlier this year against the Orioles. What kind of contract do you think David Price is going to get this offseason?
It'll be a big one. How high do you want to go? It's going to be a big one because of his success in Tampa, Detroit, now here. He's a winner. The thing that I noticed today when I was looking at his time of service is that he just fell a couple of days short of being a free agent last year. And he just turned 30. So the question might be, is Nick draws a leadoff walk. That's a good sign. Is how many years do you give a 30-year-old pitcher? You'll be able, you would think, to pretty much write his own ticket, but I don't know lengthwise.
Yeah, and from all reports, he absolutely loves pitching in Toronto. Loves his teammates, loves the atmosphere. Said he's never pitched in an atmosphere or environment like Rogers Center. And he really has become the Pied Piper. When they got him, there truly was electricity in the air when he came out 50 minutes before his first start with the Blue Jays at home. And the crowd went nuts because for the first time in a long time, Toronto's got a legitimate #1 top of the rotation ace that they think can take him to the promised land. And
maybe the first guy since they had Clemens.
And it's been a while.
Yeah. And they're packing the Rogers Center, boy, ever since these moves have been made.
So Cameron Maybin quickly, no balls, 2 strikes.
Price is mid-90s. The reason right-handers don't have a lot of success against him, he's got an excellent changeup that he sinks down and away, throws a cutter in on their hands.
And can paint. Maybin didn't think much of that call from Quinn Walcott. Price has his first strikeout.
That was a cutter, kind of a backdoor cutter. That didn't look like a strike because it started so far off the plate. And I'm not sure it got back to the plate, but it was mighty close.
So 1 on, 1 out for Andrelton Simmons, last night's hitting hero, his 4th career game-ending RBI for the Braves. He just poked it through the right side. Maybe he can do that again. He takes a strike.
And this was the 4th time in his career that he's made 2 errors in a game, but the first one in over a year. The last one was July 5th of 14.
Downstairs, 1-1 for Simmons. Really impressed with the job Andrelton has done at the plate for the Braves this year. He seemingly, Joe, isn't trying to hit home runs. He's content with hitting the ball where it's pitched, hitting the ball the other way. Always tough to strike out. I think he and Kevin Seitzer have finally had a meeting of the minds, and maybe the Georgia Lottery results of late indicate that.
He has hit the jackpot over the last 8 games. Average of 264 coming in tonight. Kevin was a hitting coach for these Blue Jays just last year.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Did he go? No swing. 2 balls, 2 strikes for the Braves shortstop. That'd be a fun job, working with an offense like Toronto's. If you're the hitting coach. Whew.
It's Brooke Jacoby now, former Brave. Who went to Cleveland, I think, in the Lynn Barker deal.
Brett Butler and Rick Bahena were the other principals in that deal. And there's a strikeout looking. So Price has one over the outside corner and the inside corner here in the second. And David hasn't had to use his defense in inning number 2 quite yet. It's a good Toronto defense, although without Troy Tulowitzki at shortstop. Ryan Goins is out there. Revere Pilar and Jose Bautista left to right. Encarnacion and Donaldson are the cornerman. Russell Martin is the captain of the CPI security defense. Swing and a rocket off the bat of Bethancourt. That's headed for the corner. Swisher around second, on his way to third, and he'll be stopped. Bethancourt with a frozen rope as his first hit of the game. Again, the Braves aggressive early in the count against David Price.
That looked like a cutter. Didn't get it in there. Good swing by Christian to get the barrel out. And he smoked that.
7th double. And let's see if Shelby can help himself with 2 outs. Shelby has not made a lot of contact as a hitter in a Braves uniform. He struck out 27 times in 50 at bats. And this one's popped up right side. Encarnacion. He says he's got it, and he does, and that'll retire the side. No runs, a hit. 2 men left. 4-1 Blue Jays after 2. Special night coming up on Friday night here at Turner Field. It'll be Zombie Night, and several members of the Braves Tomahawk team volunteered to be zombified, if that's a proper term. They look pretty ferocious.
Lovely ladies, just lovely.
So it's not too late to get your Zombie Night ticket pack. That includes a zombie survival kit, access to zombie makeup artists, and a pregame zombie walk around the field. Friday night, the Phillies are here, 7:35 first pitch. What is a zombie survival kit? What is in a zombie survival kit?
I don't know exactly, but Larry Anderson's going to need one the time you and I get through with him when the Phillies get to town.
I mean, if we had a vampire survival kit, you know, you'd have the rope of garlic around the neck, that kind of thing. So what do you do to survive being zombified?
Probably just walk around with Dave Poole, our A2. Just have him lead the way.
Jose Bautista takes the strike. 1-2 pitch. Well, the great thing about David is all the makeup you can save because you can't tell the difference.
Well, notice I said A2.
Yes, you did. 2-2 to Jose Bautista. You talk about a man that really took a while to stick somewhere. What a story of great persistence for Jose Bautista. He's turned into one of the game's elite sluggers, now 34 years of age. 1,387 games without playing in a single playoff game. As a big leaguer, this ball's dribbled to the middle of the infield. Castro, long throw. Freeman dug it out. Good play.
What a nice one. All the way over on the shortstop side of second. When was the last time we saw a second baseman get to a ball over there instead of Andrelton? What a good read by Daniel. Was not hit hard, and he still had a little mustard on that throw too. Good help from Freddie. Yeah, Bautista's up there, isn't he? Doesn't he have more games than anyone without playing in the postseason?
He's in the top 3. I know that. And this might be the year that streak ends for him. Encarnacion is there too, if memory serves. He hasn't had any playoff luck either. But Bautista, 20th round pick by the Pirates. Went to the Orioles in the Rule 5. Was waived. Then to the Royals, the Mets, back to the Pirates, and then traded to Toronto.
There's that list, and 3 of those guys look like shoe-ins to have that streak snapped. Rios, Bautista, and Encarnacion. Shin-Soo Choo could too.
With Texas. And a note for, well, first the pitch to Encarnacion. Bounced up the middle, and Simmons can't get to that one. Encarnacion's 2 for 2 tonight. For all of you fireworks people around the major leagues, if Rios hits a home run in a visiting ballpark, that is not the time to set off the fireworks. How about that last night?
Yeah, poor guy.
That happened in Cleveland, and that was only part of the story for the Royals. Chris Medlin pitched great.
Yeah, he did. He's moving himself into a position to be one of the starters in the postseason for KC.
1 on, 1 out for Russell Martin, who knocked in a couple of runs. This one's popped out of play. Here was the scene last night at Progressive Field in Cleveland. This poor guy.
First of all, that ball was hit a mile by Rios for the Royals in Cleveland. And the Cleveland guy set off the fireworks.
That happens. He was just practicing for when Cleveland was going to hit one tonight, right?
Itchy trigger finger.
Oh, man. No balls, 2 strikes for Martin. And way outside, 1 and 2. 4 in the first for the Blue Jays. Shelby's got to stop him right there and hope Atlanta can do something with David Price. Nope, didn't go. 2 and 2. Same concern for Shelby Miller that we had for Julio Teheran last night. He's in the mid-50s with his pitch count. A lot of high stress pitches too tonight. And there was a beauty. Martin didn't get it, and he's struck out for the 2nd out of the inning.
Took a little off that. Watch this go down. Excellent pitch.
Three strikeouts for Miller now, and Ryan Goins the batter. A sacrifice fly earned him his 40th RBI. Strike 1. Base hit the other way. That's 6 hits for the Blue Jays. We're seeing what Toronto has been doing to the rest of baseball since the trading deadline. And again, this is a club that's without Troy Tulowitzki right now. I don't know how you pitch to him, to be honest with you.
And even the guys that you think you can go for outs. Goins last night was 1 for 3. A single. He also walked once. And then one of the outs, remember, was a line shot right to Freddie Freeman. Tonight he's hit a rocket to deep center for a sac fly and that base hit. So there's no soft touch there if you're trying to look for a place to go get an out. It's a deep lineup.
Kevin Pillar popped out to end the 4-run Toronto first. So he's 0 for 1. And this one's popped up into shallow center. Castro drifts out. He says he's got it. And that will retire the side. 2 hits for Toronto in the 3rd inning. Top of the Braves order comes calling. 4-1 is your score. Fans, now it's time for you to tweet your strongest fan photo. Use hashtag SouthDataStrongFan, and you just might see yourself in an upcoming broadcast. That's brought to you by T-Mobile. All right, let's get something started in the home 3rd. Top of the order. And Nick Markakis is the batter. He lashed a double on the first pitch of the night into the right field corner and scored on a Freddie Freeman sac fly.
Saxby's indescribably good play involves Nick Swisher tonight. Last 21 games against the Blue Jays, .351 average, 16 runs scored. Obviously a lot of success against them while he was with the Orioles, playing them a lot.
When you look at the numbers for Nick Markakis and those who wondered why Atlanta signed him in the midst of this rebuilding program, ground ball other way, long throw from short, and what a play. What a spectacular play by Goins to rob Nick Markakis. The Braves might take a look at it, but that's as good as gold right there.
That was a long throw. And that's Zaxby's. I had the wrong Nick. Of course, I was talking about Markakis, who gets robbed here under the glove of Donaldson. Had to put some air under it to get it there. Nope. Whew. That foot was in the air when he caught it.
Man, spectacular play.
What a play.
But my point about Nick, 167 hits, far and away leads the club. 49 RBIs, 64 runs, on base percentage of .371. He's batted everywhere in the top of the batting order for Atlanta this year. Played excellent ball by and large defensively in right field. And that's for a man who had no offseason, coming back from neck surgery, and as you've said, wasn't a certainty to play opening day, but he did.
And as good as he's been, he'll only be that much better, that much stronger next year.
So a great play by Goins keeps David Price in the windup. Daniel Castro bats. He bounced out to first.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a windup, but it is his windup. Works more from a stretch type position, but he's moving his feet, moving that front foot to get ready to go into his leg kick. It's a big guy, 6'6", a slender 210 out of Vanderbilt. First round pick in 07 by Tampa Bay. Still lives in Nashville.
Three balls, two strikes. That's the left side. Donaldson, tricky hop, played it off his chest and handled for out number 2.
David Price has 3 complete games this year and 1 shutout. That shutout came against Cleveland while he was with Detroit on June 12th. It was a 7-hitter, no walks, 8 strikeouts.
You know, too, Joe, in his last start, he only pitched 5 innings. They had a huge lead for him,
right.
9-2. I would imagine that games like that are so hugely important for David Price. Any inning they can save for him now means he's that much fresher in the playoffs.
You bet. 201 innings already at the start of play tonight.
And ball 1 for Freddie Freeman. Freddie, a sac fly. His 56th RBI of the year. And that's taken low. I don't know if it's a question mark or a weakness, whichever way you want to look at it, but the starting staff for Toronto might be a perceived soft spot. Once you get past Price, there are a few question marks about the Blue Jays. Not because the pitchers aren't good, but you got R.A. Dickey, knuckleballer. That's a trick pitch. You don't know what the knuckleball is going to do. Don't know if Mark Burley is going to be healthy enough to pitch in postseason. Marcus Stroman's coming back from a torn knee ligament. They're very high on him. Hutchinson, ton of run support, high ERA.
Great numbers for Hutchinson, but you can't ignore his run support.
And then Marco Estrada, who's going to pitch here tomorrow. He's come back to earth a little bit over the last 4 or 5 weeks. But you know, it's really like complaining about the paint job on the free Ferrari somebody hands you.
Exactly. Well, Price has got a lot of postseason experience. 4 different division series. 3 with Tampa Bay, 1 with Detroit last year. A league championship series with Tampa Bay. And of course, the World Series with Tampa Bay.
And he just struck out Freddie Freeman. He's settling in his 3rd strikeout. And Atlanta retired in order in the bottom of the 3rd. You know who their #1 guy is. After that, though, who fills in the gaps for the Jays?
Well, I think a lot of it's going to hinge on how healthy Mark Burley is come October 8th when they start division play. If his shoulder's a lot better, he would be the logical guy. And then, R.A. Dickey, 7-1 since the break. His numbers for the year aren't very good, but he's gotten better as the season's gone along. And we know from Tim Wakefield what a knuckleballer can do to you in the postseason. Haven't had a chance to see Stroman pitch, and we'll get a chance to check out Estrada tomorrow.
The Jays are really high on Marcus Stroman. He was 11-6 last year in 20 starts. He can really bring it, but he's still coming back from a torn ACL in his knee. He has pitched, and he's going to pitch in their next series. So we'll keep an eye on what Stroman does over the final 3 weeks of the year. Cliff Pennington, the 8th place hitter for the Jays. Then Price. Then Ben Revere again. We're in the 4th inning. 4-1, Toronto the lead. And a 4-pitch walk in front of the pitcher.
Another aspect of that you have to factor in is the matchup. Who are they playing? What are the strengths and weaknesses of that particular ball club? And no disrespect to Drew Hutchinson, who's a 13-game winner. He's 13-4, but his ERA is 5.33 with a ton of run support. He also has a .291 batting average against. So depending on what team they face, there's a balk. That would certainly play a part in their decision for Hutchinson.
So Pennington balked to second. David Price will stand in. And as it stands now, as we look at the balk.
Yeah, that was pretty obvious. He broke from his hands. He went into the glove and separated his hands again. Instead of stepping off, he should have stepped off first.
David Price does not have a career sacrifice bunt. And popped out of play. If the playoffs started tomorrow, Toronto will play Texas. That's right. The Texas Rangers have caught the Astros and play them again tonight.
It's Luis Rivera, their third base coach.
Quickly, 2 strikes.
2007 was the year he got drafted in the first round by Tampa Bay. That was his junior year. He won the Golden Spikes Award as the best amateur player in the country. Dick Hauser Award winner is the nation's best baseball player. Baseball America named him the College Player of the Year. Collegiate Baseball named him the National Co-Player of the Year. How about that job?
Got the man to third base. Not a sacrifice, but just as effective. David Price puts it in play for a second time. 1 out.
He was also the Co-Player of the Year, won the Brooks Wallace Award as a College Baseball Foundation Player of the Year, named the Roger Clemens Award winner as the nation's top college pitcher, and named the SEC Player of the Year and SEC Male Athlete of the Year, all in that same season. That's a lot of trophies. And a nice job there as he is appreciated by his teammates for getting that runner over.
So the infield comes in for Ben Revere. He's singled, scored, and he's reached on Andrelton Simmons' second error of the night. And that's upstairs. 1 ball, no strikes. We've talked a lot about the lack of run support for Shelby Miller, and it certainly is a huge story. You wonder if the pressure of that is starting to affect him now overall. Last 5 games, Shelby's pitched to a 5.08 ERA. Almost double his overall season numbers in that category. popped up and headed for the seats. 2 balls and a strike. If there has been any frustration, and I should maybe take away the qualifier, I'm sure there's frustration for Shelby Miller. To his credit, there has been no evidence of that in the locker room when we've been around, on the buses, teammates. I mean, he's handled this, I think, terrifically.
There have been games where there's been a calamity of mistakes made behind him too, on top of no run support.
In the air to right, Markakis has it tracked down. There's the catch. Runner tags. Here comes the throw. It's going to be late. And Ben Revere has his 11th RBI as a Blue Jay. That brings home a Pennington. And the Jays now have a 5-1 lead. And the leadoff walk and balk come back to haunt Miller.
Give credit to the pitcher for helping himself there. Price getting him over to third base. Braves might have been checking to see if Pennington left too early.
So Donaldson's up again. And a strike. Donaldson acquired for Brett Laurie, Kendall Graveman, Sean Nolan, and Franklin Barreto November 28th last year.
Great trade for Toronto.
Donaldson coming off back-to-back 20-plus homer years with the Athletics.
Anyone you talk to around the Blue Jays camp, we heard this at the beginning of the year, they had a bad clubhouse last year, and they got rid of a lot of malcontents and cleaned things up and brought in good people. It's made a difference.
And Donaldson certainly one of them. He is not one of those moral victory kind of guys. In fact, when Jays had a couple of bad games in a row a couple of weeks ago, he was asked about the efforts of his club. He said, "This isn't about how hard we tried. This is about whether we won or not."
He and Shelby separated at birth. They have a lot of characteristics look like each other.
2-2 pitch. And whipped out of play. It's still 2-2. Donaldson, as we said, originally a Cub. He was selected as a supplemental compensation pick when Juan Pierre was signed as a free agent. He was a catcher then. And moved to third base in Oakland. And that ball's belted down the left field line. That's a one-hopper off the fence. And Donaldson is in at second with a 2-out hit. And the avalanche of offense is well underway for the Blue Jays tonight.
That was a curveball, and it was in. I think it was a hanger. It was. And he teed off on it. Remember, he's had trouble laying off that breaking ball down and away. That time he got one right about letter high.
So once you get past Donaldson, now you've got to worry about Batista and then Encarnacion. Joe and I were talking in between commercial breaks. I can't remember an American League team as deep as this one offensively.
It's been a while since anybody has been able to put this kind of lineup together, especially if you put in Tulowitzki and Smoke. And the reason you can put them both in the American League is they have the DH. So that means a guy like Goins is probably batting ninth, he or Pilar. And in between, there's just no place to go to get outs. They're in first place in several categories.
And the most important one, the AL East. 1-1 pitch is in the dirt. Bethencourt blocked that. 2 balls and a strike.
Yeah, if you're the Yankees, you got to be kicking yourself today over not taking advantage of the opportunity to pick up a game. Braves did him a favor.
Tampa Bay beat the Yankees 6-3 last night. And now they've got to beat Chris Archer in Tampa Bay tonight. 2 balls, 1 strike for Jose Bautista. A lot of clubs in baseball wish they had a mulligan on Bautista. Several teams had him. None could harness the talent.
I think he was the guy playing third base in Pittsburgh the day that Chipper fell over the top of him and hurt his hand or wrist.
Really?
Yeah.
Full count. Well, if that was affecting his offense, the move to the outfield changed his life. And he takes a walk. There is action in the Braves bullpen. Sugar Ray Marimon was up and throwing, and Freddie Gonzalez is going to go get Shelby Miller with 2 outs in the 4th inning. 4 runs in the first, 1 here in the 4th, and 2 are aboard for Toronto. Blue Jays have built a big lead for David Price. We're back to Atlanta in a moment. Somebody saying, what do you have? At the varsity downtown, we thought we had a pitching matchup. Hadn't worked out that way. Rough night for Shelby Miller as Toronto leads 5-1. If you're playing fantasy baseball, fans, MLB.tv serves up real-time highlights and pitch tracking info on your out-of-market fantasy players live or on demand on over 400 devices. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Get MLB.tv today. So Sugar Ray Marimon is the first man called out of the Atlanta bullpen. Atlanta needs innings out of him.
14th game for Sugar Ray. He's had some real good long outings for the Braves too. They need a couple innings out of him tonight.
Sugar Ray was starting down with Gwinnett. August 20th, he went 7 innings. His longest stint since then is 3 1/3 innings against the Marlins on September 1st. His first to Encarnacion is up over his head. He's been plunked once on a throw at the plate when Encarnacion scored a first inning run. One of two errors by Simmons tonight. 1 ball, no strikes.
Encarnacion was fortunate in this way. He's a right-handed hitter, so that ear flap is on the left side, and that throw hit him on the back of the helmet on the left side. Otherwise, back of his head's a little more exposed behind his ear, as you see on the right side. Those are 3 straight breaking balls that weren't very good.
No. And Christian Bethancourt might want to suggest something else here. Three balls, no strikes. Be very careful here. And 4 straight, loads the bases. Donaldson to third, Bautista to second, Encarnacion at first, and here's Russell Martin. Here's a stat for you. How many times this year do you think the Blue Jays have had an at bat with the bases loaded this year?
Oh boy. 20, 25.
25?
Uh-huh.
With the bases loaded? That's a good week for him.
Oh.
This is number 123.
Oh my goodness.
123 at bats for their club with the bases loaded. By comparison, well, the Braves are right there, 125. A little bit surprising. I think with the Toronto offense there'd be a whole lot more. Slow roller left side, cut off, and the throw to first is in time, and Sugar Ray got Martin to roll out with the bases loaded. And that ends the inning. A leadoff walk comes home for the Blue Jays. They lead 5-1 after 3.5.
Fourth, Adonis Garcia helped to end that inning for Maramon, and he leads off the bottom of the inning for the Braves. Had a chance to catch up with Adonis before the game today, and he talked about some of the things he's been working on since he's been up there and getting a chance to play. He said he worked a lot in the cages to get more consistent in the batter's box and at the plate. He's hitting .571 over the last 4 games coming into this one, so he's certainly on a good tear right now. And he also talked about trying to be versatile, playing different positions. He understands with Hector Olivera being here, Olivera projected to be at third, that he's spent some time in the outfield, which is really where he had played before coming to the Braves. And he said he also does plan to spend some more time working on second base in the offseason, guys.
Thanks, Jen.
You know what's funny about that, Jen, and you're absolutely right. When the Yankees came to town and he was playing against his old club, everybody with the Yankees was going, why is Garcia playing third base? He said, well, I thought he played third base. He said, no, he's an outfielder. So his time at third base was very small with that organization compared to what it's been with Atlanta.
And that stands to reason. You didn't figure he was going to get much playing time with a certain Alex Rodriguez over there in pinstripes. And now with Chase Headley, their starting third baseman.
Well, aside from a couple of mental mistakes he's made at third, I think he's done a great job fielding his position.
That's upstairs. 2 balls, 2 strikes. And let's face it, this is a power-starved Atlanta ball club. And Adonis does have power to right and right center field. That one off the plate. He went fishing, and Price struck him out. David Price with 4 strikeouts in the game. Set down 5 consecutive men now.
That's the first strikeout swinging. All the others have been looking.
Here's Nick Swisher. He walked to lead off the second inning. David Price has been a model of consistency. He's allowed 2 or fewer runs in 17 of his last 21 starts. He's given up 1 run so far tonight. Up the middle and through. Nick Swisher breaks an 0 for 11 with a solid single. And that's the 3rd Atlanta hit. Early in the count. That's how the Braves attacked him in the first inning tonight.
Yeah, it's been successful for them so far. He's trying to get that first pitch strike in there. They've teed off on him.
Cameron Maybin struck out his first time up. And that's over the outside edge. 0-1 the count.
Yeah, first pitch strike, though, fastball right there.
As Jen reported earlier tonight, Cameron back after his eye issues, corneal abrasions, and eye infection. Sidelined him for a few days. And he swings and misses and is out number 2 in the inning. See, tough duty.
He's got good enough, certainly better than good enough fastball, 95-96, when he wants to really jump on it, as he did here upstairs. Makes it hard to catch up, and then he mixes in that changeup and that cutter to right-handers, and he's got 3 quality pitches that just wears him out.
And he does pitch. I mean, he doesn't just rear back and throw maximum effort with every single pitch he throws. As Andrelton Simmons bats, and The first pitch rolled out to the shortstop. Easy play, and David Price is rolling merrily along with a 5-1 lead after 4 complete. And here's an example, our great clips clip of the game.
How about this play from Ryan Goins across the diamond to get Markakis by a half step. That'll be on the Blue Jay highlight reel this year. Heck of a play. You know what's funny about that? I don't think Tulowitzki can make that play.
Might not have. There's a swing and a miss for Goins, who has a single and a sac fly. I think that's the one real sad thing about Troy Tulowitzki is he just has not been able to stay healthy consistently over the last couple of years while with the Rockies, and an unfortunate injury in New York a couple of days ago that'll cost him a couple of weeks. But when he's out there, another fearsome weapon. The advantage for him playing in the American League is if physically he's maybe not 100%, throw him in there as the DH. And as you saw, you lose nothing with Goins playing shortstop.
Nope.
And that's fouled away. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Ryan Goins out of Dallas Baptist College.
Good baseball school.
Another roller foul. Still a full count. Braves took care of one big obstacle last night. They snapped their franchise record 12-game home losing streak. But as one feat is accomplished, there's another to take care of tonight. Last time the Braves won back-to-back games, August 7th and 8th.
Is that against Miami?
Correct. And Goins takes a walk. And he's aboard to start inning number 5. Walks are starting to pile up for the Braves today. Can't do that. That was one of Joe's keys of the series. Time for our AT&T Uverse trivia question. With Toronto up 4 runs, John Gibbons has won 82 as the skipper of the Blue Jays, who holds the Toronto managerial record for most wins in a single season.
Ooh. Cito Gaston would be first guy I would consider.
Bobby Cox.
Yeah.
Carlos Tosca managed the Toronto Blue Jays too. As Kevin Pillar takes a strike.
Roy Hartsfield was their first manager.
Did so well they named an airport after him.
Is that right? Hartsfield?
I think you're right. I'll look. Old Exhibition Stadium. Never saw that one. What was that place like?
Ugh, horrible.
Well, how do you really feel?
In a word. It was a football stadium. I mean, they had to kind of make do when they got the expansion franchise. Said this is our stadium, and they used the artificial turf stadium that the Toronto Argonauts used. Had a huge crown in it in the middle of the field. It ran from the third base line to right center field.
Pillar smokes one to left, and Swisher can't get it. It's over his head and up against the wall. Goins will be stopped at third base, and it's a hard hit double by Kevin Pillar. Ball kept on carrying, and to the base of the fence. His 24th double.
He was fooled a little bit too. He went down and got that pitch, one-handed it over Nick's head, just beyond the glove. Goins thought he was going to score. He rounded third, and I mean, almost broke his ankles trying to stop after Luis Rivera gave him a late stop sign.
Yeah, you're right about Roy Hartsfield. He was the first skipper, 1977 through 79. And Bobby Maddock took over for 2 years.
That's the guy who was, yeah.
And Bobby Cox was the third skipper in Toronto, 82 through 85. Mentioned Cito Gaston. He's got the most wins as this ball's grounded to the right side. Pennington does his job, brings home a run. Pillar to third. Pennington's had a nice series, hitting 8 for Toronto, his second RBI here in Atlanta to go along with a run scored, and it's 6-1 Blue Jays. They're not just bashing the baseball. I mean, they're playing good, solid ABC baseball too.
Batting average has been really good.
In fact, a lot of former Brave personnel. Cito Gaston played with Atlanta. Bobby Cox, Jimmy Williams, Carlos Tosca, Jim Fregosi managed in Toronto. Late great Jim Fregosi, who we miss so dearly. As the infield in for David Price. And he hits one to third. Garcia looks the runner back and makes the throw to first. Price put the ball in play 3 times tonight, and he's bummed out. Thought he had a great chance for an RBI, but Adonis made a nice play.
Excellent play. Nice reactions here by Adonis. That artificial turf in Toronto at Exhibition Stadium, in the outfield where the zipper seams were on the artificial surface, they split where it's like if one of your zippers on your pants break where you can't zip it back up again. It's separated. There were such big gaps in the space that instead of replacing the turf or fixing the zipper, there were tacks. They'd go out and tack down the areas of the zipper that were kind of sticking up.
Really?
Yeah.
Get a few odd hops there, eh? And fun to slide for a...
You had to be careful where you dove for balls.
And it's, from what I'm told, an otherworldly kind of cold in the early and late months.
Yeah, there were times where it was awful.
As Revere bats with 2 outs, runner at third, 6-1 Blue Jays. And they now play in what at the time was one of the great architectural wonders of the world. What was then known as Sky Dome. Now it's the Rogers Center.
A real marvel.
And they're talking about putting natural grass in that ballpark. As Rivera waits an 0-2 pitch and missed inside. How'd you like to jackhammer through all that concrete to try to find a way to make grass grow in downtown Toronto? If they can do it, that'd be great. Remember, their turf this year generated a lot of controversy, as spongy and springy as it was. We saw balls hit to the outfield that would actually stop before they got to the warning track. The turf was so new and thick. Nice stop by Bethancourt there.
Good stop by Christian. Paid for it. Looks like it got to the side of his chest protector as he was sliding over. No, it actually got the protector. It just wasn't enough. Probably should have had one of those Mizuno protectors on.
Two balls, two strikes. Jimmy Guadagno on the phone right now. Take care of Christian. Full count. Pop fly to shallow right. Markakis just couldn't get there. Dumped into a perfect spot, and Revere glides into second with a bloop double. He's got 2 RBIs. And it's now 7-1 Toronto.
That's just rotten luck. That was a good pitch up out of the zone. All he did was fight it off.
Now again you face Donaldson. Boy, the bottom of their lineup feeds the top, and the top feeds the bottom, doesn't it?
And when you got a guy like this, 38 homers, 119 RBIs, you kind of think he's going to be in the middle of the order. And as soon as you get past the pitcher, there he is again.
No balls, 1 strike. Mile high pop, and he's beside himself. Freddie Freeman as this one measured up, and that takes care of the Jays in the 5th inning. They add 2 more runs. 7-1 Blue Jays.
He's only given up 3 hits, gave up the run in the 1st inning, but he's back to business and has put himself in a position to be mentioned in the American League Cy Young candidates, at least in my opinion. Combined with Detroit, his numbers 15-5, 6-1 with Toronto. Felix Hernandez having another great year in anonymity out in Seattle, 17-9, tied for the most wins in the American League. Everybody thinks it's Dallas Keuchel who's going to win it. He leads the American League in ERA, and he's the guy that's kind of been the straw that's stirring the Houston drink. But man, oh man, Chris Sale, I know he's not on a club that's going to the postseason, but 250 strikeouts, he has been unbelievable. I think he's got to rival all those guys for Cy Young.
So if you had to vote, you're saying you'd have to write down Sale first?
I'd be real tempted to write him down first. What a year. And if he's on a better ball club, you know, I'm kind of being a hypocrite here, because last night I talked about MVPs being guys that are on successful teams, making a difference for successful teams. And he's not. He's not on a successful team.
Right.
So that's where I'm kind of betwixt and between. Keuchel certainly has made a huge difference for Houston.
Do you wish there was more clarity as to what the parameters were for postseason awards like Cy Young, MVP? In other words, we talked about it last night. As you see, Bethancourt hits. The original parameters of the MVP vote were for the player who had the greatest impact on his team in Major League Baseball. Not the best player in the league, but the best impact on his team. You could make that argument for Cespedes, certainly Bryce Harper.
That raised the level of his team.
Exactly. Yeah. So do you think it's time that baseball, in some shape or fashion, clarifies the parameters of how we perceive either the most valuable player to his team, or the player of the year, or the pitcher of the year, or the Cy Young Award winner?
I don't know. I don't know if it needs to have hard lines. I think that's still got to be in the eye of the beholder in terms of what that person meant to their team, in terms of lifting them up to be a contender,
right,
and how it compares with other players in the league. Is that guy more outstanding than another who lifted his team up into contention? So I wouldn't want to have hard numbers or demarcations for guys to achieve to get there. And there's a leadoff walk. Let's turn that into something. Get back in this.
But you understand the point. There seemingly is a difference between a player who is the most valuable player and a player who is the player of the year.
Well, and I know your point, because you're a proponent, I think, of like the Hank Aaron Award.
Right.
Is outstanding hitter. There could be a Hank Aaron Award. There could be a Nolan Ryan Award for the pitcher, and then have an outstanding player, an MVP, on top of that. And I would not be opposed to that, because I vehemently disagree with a pitcher being able to get the Cy Young and the MVP. Cy Young is the pitcher MVP.
Right. So why not have a pitcher of the year award and the Cy Young award? And I guess there would be some concern then. Does an award like that diminish the MVP or the Cy Young award? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Does it water it down in any way, shape, or form?
A little bit in some ways, but I just think they ought to be different. I think the Outstanding Player Award and the Outstanding Pitcher Award should be limited to pitchers and players.
And then in the case of Cespedes, and I'll go on record, I think Bryce Harper is the MVP of our league this year, in my opinion. Now, there's no question that Cespedes has totally changed the New York Mets. If you are willing to have the argument that Cespedes could be the MVP of our league, well, most of his action took place in the American League. We have interleague play now. Should Cespedes be penalized and not have his numbers added together? And he didn't choose to come to the New York Mets. They traded him to the New York Mets. Why should he be taken out of the MVP discussion because of a midseason trade?
I think he's warranted everything that people are offering him in terms of contention. And I say that because Rick Sutcliffe won the Cy Young Award pitching for the Chicago Cubs for half a season.
Right.
I think he won 16 games.
And lost one.
It was crazy.
Some crazy thing.
What he did. It was amazing. And he certainly earned it in a half a season with the Cubs. So Why can't a guy do the same thing in part-time duty with a new team, especially with the numbers Cespedes is putting up? You know, when Chipper won the MVP, was that 98? Somewhere in there. A lot of his attention came because of what he was doing to the Mets at the end of the year.
Right.
In late August and September, he just killed the Mets, and everybody said, you know what? The difference maker was Chipper Jones in those series between those two clubs, and it propelled the Braves into the postseason, and winning the division. And it was never discussed that Chipper had this awesome year, which I think he still did, but nobody really talked about how he won it for his body of work for the year. He won it for what he did in those last 6 weeks of the season under clutch situations and coming through in a huge way the way he did.
And it was Chipper in 99, his MVP year, and you could make that case for Cespedes. Think about what he did to the Nationals. Again, small sample size.
I know.
And I'm sure that's going to be a very hard, maybe it won't be a hard decision, but for some it will be a very difficult decision, because how can you penalize Cespedes for having a great year and a great 2 months for the New York Mets? It's a fascinating topic. 2 on for Nick Markakis, a couple of walks for David Price.
Oh, by the way, the rest of Chipper's year wasn't too bad either. Chan just pulled that up. 319, 45 homers, 110 driven in. So people were paying attention to him before that, but just a colossal finish to that year for him.
All of a sudden, David Price springing the ball around. He's got 2 on. He's got nobody out. He's got a big lead. See how long the Jays ride David Price. Pitch count's not a problem, and again, he should be rested after pitching only 5 innings in his last outing against the Yankees. He's got to get through this 5th with the lead to qualify for the win. That was a nasty pitch. 1-2. Bethancourt walked. Ryan Lavarnway in a pinch hit assignment walked. And now Nick Skies went out of play. Foul will still have a 1-2 count. 7-1 Blue Jays. They ambushed Shelby Miller with 4 runs in the first inning. A Batista double, a Russell Martin double, a sacrifice fly scored the first 4 runs. Freddie Freeman had a first inning sac fly to make it 4-1. Toronto added a run in the 4th and 2 more in the 5th off Sugar Ray Marimon. And that sweeps low.
David Price got drafted out of high school. He went to Blackman High School in Tennessee in Rutherford County and was drafted in the 19th round of the 04 draft before going to Vanderbilt by the Dodgers.
Oh, just think. Well,
yeah,
you know, there's still a chance.
Yeah.
That he could end up in L.A. Some published reports said that the Dodgers, the Red Sox, and the Cubs are going to be in the bidding for David Price this offseason. L.A. might need some pitching insurance if Greinke leaves. Little flare into shallow right. Pennington's out. Can't make the play. Ball drops. They're going to throw to second for 1. Throw to third. In time. He came off the bag. Bethancourt came off the bag on the hard slide at third. Bo Porter wants to take a look at that. What an odd play and a horrible no man's land situation for all the Braves base runners.
And theirs turns into a double. They drop one in out there and it turns into a double. This one turns into a double play. And I mean, when Pennington picked that ball up, he threw a laser to second base. Everybody had to wait to see if he was going to catch it, but this throw was a bullet. Heads up play by Goins. He did come off the bag, but he brought his left hand back, and I think that's probably what Bo Porter is saying. Glove on him, glove. Ooh. Oh. Oh. Braves are not going to challenge it. Glove is still on him when he was off the bag. Yeah, they got him. What a double play. Good grief.
So it looked like a very promising inning turns into a double play. Markakis at first for Castro, who's 0 for 2.
And that's not a hit. That's not a hit. That doesn't count as a hit. That's
Fielder's
a
choice.
Yeah, it's a forced play. Fielder's choice.
(7-1) Toronto. The Stars are aligned for them tonight.
4-6-5.
We saw a 4-5-3 double play last night. So there have been a couple of weird ones turned in by the Jays defensively. And that just missed inside. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Pennington knew exactly where he was going as soon as he picked that ball up because he knew the runners had to wait. Terrific play.
That's why you like veterans down the stretch, isn't it?
No question.
Little looper in a shallow right field. That'll drop for a hit. Bautista will stop Markakis at second base. Got to play it station to station, down 6 runs, and Castro with another hit as a Brave starter keeps the inning alive for Freddie Freeman.
You know, Daniel Castro is one of those guys that wasn't on anyone's radar. Nobody talked about him. I'm not even sure he went to big league camp. Maybe he got some games where he got invited to go on a road trip or something. I don't know. But
I don't remember seeing him.
But I don't know that he was on anyone's radar except the farm system. And boys, he really opened some eyes.
High and tight to Freddie. 1 ball, no strikes. We used to say the same thing about Martin Prado in his early days with the Braves.
Yeah.
Martin grew into an all-star caliber player and an everyday player by working so very hard for a couple of years before he got a chance to assume a starting role. But the term we used with Martin is one that you may want to use with Castro. He's a baseball player.
Right.
Runs bases well, puts the ball in play, makes good throws, turns the double play. And as you talked last night, Joe, excellent instincts.
Very good instincts. Just like that play he made tonight, bouncing over the mound. He didn't sit around and wait for Anderson to make the play. He took charge, swooped in and got it.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Tell you this, if the Jays get to postseason play, the networks are going to love when David Price pitches.
Yeah.
We're approaching 2 hours and we're not through 5 innings. 1 ball, 2 strikes. And you could hear David grunt as he released that one.
Yeah. Yeah, Mark Burley has not been a great influence on David in terms of altering his timing.
But their average time of game is spectacular.
In the middle.
Right.
Yes.
1-2, 2 on, 2 out. Crazy inning. And Freddie bounces it out of play.
Chan just looked it up for us. Daniel Castro was invited to spring training as a non-roster shortstop.
Thanks, Chan. 9 o'clock. Bottom of the 5th. into the seats again. Nice catch. Wow, one-handed.
Oh, yeah.
And Price finally wins the battle. Now the question is, will he remain in the game? He's got a 6-run lead. We head to the 6th inning. The American League West, Mitch Moreland with this sacrifice fly helped the Rangers beat the Astros. And with that win, Texas has taken the top spot for Jeff Bannister's Texas Ball Club. They have been an amazing story. The Texas Rangers, and a Lone Star shootout is at hand between the Rangers and the Astros. We'll show you that. Our AL West standings brought to you by our friends at DirecTV.
Yeah, and the Angels aren't out of it by any means. They're 4 back and have games left with both Texas and Houston, so they could mount a surge and become a factor themselves. But boy, oh boy, the Texas Rangers, talk about somebody no one was talking about. They have really come on.
They're like Toronto in this regard. As you see Danny Barala in to pitch. Texas Rangers were 8 games out of first place on August 1st. They've gone 27-14 since. Meanwhile, the Astros have got to get home. They have had a horrible time winning on the road. I think their road record is second only to the Braves in the negative column.
That's right. They are 29-44 on the road.
They've won 9 road games since the 4th of July.
It's worst road record in the American League.
All right, so they've got 2 more games on this road trip, tonight in Texas, tomorrow, and then they'll have Texas at home in one of their final series. But boy, that's turned out to be a genius move by Major League Baseball, getting Houston and Texas in the same division. It took a while for the Astros to hold up their end of the bargain.
Yeah,
but here they are in the battle for the Lone Star State.
There was a story written by someone today, and don't ask me the name. I wouldn't be able to tell you. I saw it posted by Dave O'Brien of the AJC today, and something that really did tweak my interest, and it had to do with realignment. And it was all based on the fact that Houston and the Rangers have developed this arch rivalry that's so good that everybody hoped it would become. And the gentleman who wrote this story was talking about how it's time for baseball to put all of those natural rivalries together in division play.
A shot by Encarnacion. He's had a perfect night at the plate.
Yeah, nice return for him. I think that knuckle's all right. But forget the leagues. Create new divisions where, for example, the Mets, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Phillies, and the Pirates are in a division. But you've got natural rivalries like that. The Cubs and the White Sox in the same division. The Angels and the Dodgers in the same division. And I thought he made a lot of sense in terms of geographics, playing in your own division and time zones and what have you, to help out on the travel.
Bouncing ball to Simmons. Glove flip to Castro. And the throw to first in time doubles up Russell Martin. Let's continue this thought when the Braves come up. Toronto leads it 7-1, sixth inning. Tour of the Braves press box, broadcast booth, clubhouse, and dugout. Tours are offered all season long and begin in the Braves Museum and Hall of Fame. For more information, call 404-614-2311. Joe and Chip with you from Turner Field. David Price is pitching like David Price has pitched all year. He's allowed only 1 run, 4 hits. They tagged Shelby Miller for 5 runs in 3 2/3 innings. And now the Braves have a big uphill climb working as we head to the home portion of the 6th inning. So moments ago, Joe was talking about this article in the AJC and how the Wild West shootout that's turning out between the Astros and Rangers, as this one is fouled at third, could spark, or in this author's mind, ought to spark a radical realignment of the divisions and a radically different way in which we perceive the leagues as we know them now.
Yeah, let me clarify that. It was not in the AJC. It was on a Facebook post by a writer from the AJC, Dave O'Brien, and it was written by Jesse Spector of the Sporting News. If you folks want to look it up, if you care to read such things. And the headline on the story called about the need for radical realignment. Strikeout number 7. So essentially, the thing about Boston and the Braves being natural rivals for interleague play, I always thought that was kind of silly. I mean, that's a stretch because the Braves used to play in Boston. Geographically, different leagues, that didn't make sense to me. But you could really come up with an argument for those teams that I was talking about in the Northeast, the Southeast, the Braves, the Marlins, the Rays, and put them together with Baltimore and Washington, let's say. They're natural rivals.
Right.
And I mean, you could come up with some unbelievable divisions that would warrant a lot of fan interest. And
at short, Goins had a great night. How about that throw? Effortless, 2 outs.
For example, kind of a Midwest league. Cardinals, the Cubs and the White Sox together. Kansas City and Milwaukee. St. Louis and Kansas City. The Missouri connection. The White Sox and the Cubs. Milwaukee's close by. Put them in the division with those guys. That kind of stuff, I think, would, I would guess, regenerate a lot of interest just because of the newness of your, all of a sudden, your new rivals. I just think it'd be terrific.
Let's talk a practicality standpoint. What's the biggest complaint the players have about a 162 game schedule? Travel.
Right.
Think of all the division games with your natural rivals so close. That would eliminate a lot of travel. The part I like about it is it moves baseball away from a traditional schedule, quite obviously, because you play everybody. My biggest complaint about interleague play is the inherent unfairness of the schedule. In other words, the teams that get to play the National League East from the American League this year have a decided advantage over the other divisions in baseball in the American League. Our division isn't very good this year. As David Price makes short work of the Braves in the 6th inning, he's got 8 strikeouts and a big lead. We'll continue our discussion. Game 2 going Toronto's way. City to city. Manconi's busy getting the hamburgers ready for the big grill out on our trip up to New York City, which under Joe's prospective realignment plan would be in a very interesting division. Unfortunately, tonight's game hasn't gone the way Shelby Miller or the Braves had hoped. Our CBI game summary.
It's been David Price, thanks to that 4-run first inning. Had 4 hits, a couple of doubles, a sacrifice fly. 4-run inning and gave David Price all the room he needed to do his thing tonight. He's got 8 strikeouts, a couple of walks.
Ryan Goins, the batter, and fouls away. All right, let's go back to the article. Number 1, do you agree with the author's premise that baseball needs, and I believe that was the term that Jesse used.
He said it's time, I think, for radical.
Do you agree with that sentiment, first of all?
I don't know if there's a urgent need, but I think the time is right for some change. You know, I've been for a long time anti-interleague. There's no way around it now because there's 15 teams in each league, so that pretty much solidified that. I thought interleague play had kind of run its course where it wasn't quite as special as it was when it first started. So now that we've got it, and now that there's all this crossover, then I think the uniqueness of the 2 leagues is kind of not where it used to be.
So that was going to lead me to my next question. Would it bother you that you would have, in essence, more interleague play under the understanding of how we perceive it to be now? Under this plan, there would not be a National and American League. It would be we're all in the major leagues, and you have an Eastern and Western group of teams. I guess,
I've got
right?
really cool names for the
let's hear them.
For the divisions, like the Great Lakes division.
That one might be my favorite.
There's 30 teams.
Right.
There would be 5 teams in 6 divisions.
Just like now.
Yeah. So 6 division winners, 2 wild cards. Put everybody together for the postseason. And
because everybody plays everybody else, the schedule's much more fair, if there is such a word, than it is, I think, under the rotating divisional thing.
Right. Make your point that you made to me today about teams in interleague that are playing the National League East this year.
Well, our division's terrible this year. I mean, there's no way getting around that. So
the weakest.
If you're the Angels or you're the Rangers or you're the Astros and you've got to play the West and the Dodgers and the Giants, those teams are fighting for wild card spots with the Yankees, who get the National League East. That's cyclical, obviously, but that's a huge advantage for the Yankees this year. Wouldn't you agree? Yes,
I do agree with that, and there needs to be more balance in the schedule.
Right.
I think that we went to that weighted divisional play where you're playing 18 or 19 times against your own division was way out of whack.
Too many games.
Way too many.
We don't need 19 games to know if we're better or worse than the Phillies or the Marlins or whoever.
But I think because it's weighted, the fairness of the schedule went away too in terms of playing everybody an equal number of times.
Let's look at this. We work in the television industry. We are obviously trying to entertain and capture a younger audience. Would this not create interest for those younger fans in your estimation? Cubs and White Sox fans, Yankees and Mets fans, Braves, Marlins, Braves, Tampa Bay, Braves, National. I mean,
hey, our own network's guilty of this, and that is, and the 4-letter sports network is horribly guilty of this. Yankees and Red Sox. It's like that's the only rivalry out there. That's the only one that's going to draw any fans, and that's the only 2 teams that will have people watching. Imagine how
Pilar got hit, or was it a foul ball?
Might have hit him on the hand. I think it got him. Imagine if every week there are rivalries on the elbow, forearm, that are as good as Yankees Red Sox. And it doesn't have to be just the Yankees and Mets, but the White Sox and Cubs, the Cardinals and the Royals playing each other several times during the year, the Dodgers and Angels, for crying out loud.
Right.
And you'd still have the Dodgers and Giants in the same division, the A's and the Giants. All that stuff, I think, really has some merit if you think about it, if realignment's in the cards for anybody.
When you were a teenager and the game went to divisional play, were you a fan of that? Because that was a big leap of whatever for fans.
I wasn't. And you know how old school I am and how grumpy I get with a lot of change in the game. And I don't know if I'm old school as much as I'm just a traditionalist, I'll say. But this really struck a chord with me today because of how the interaction with these rivalries would act, and trying to build what you talked about, young people all of a sudden taking sides within their own city,
right,
or within their own state,
right,
and what it's done in Texas with those 2 ball clubs. I think that's really struck a chord.
I think the nature of our game is one, it is so traditional, and that's the great beauty of it. It's like the metronome of our lives in the summertime. You always know there's a game going to be going on. You know that it's 8.5 or 9 innings unless you have a crazy game like the poor Dodgers and Rockies had last night.
Yeah.
But it is the metronome of your summer. Change is sometimes hard, but let's not forget this game has evolved and changed in so many ways, not only in the manner in which the game is played, the cities in which the game has expanded to, the addition of the designated hitter, teams internationally now, night games, television games. Remember, there was a time where not so long ago teams didn't televise all the games.
Right.
They didn't even broadcast their games on radio away from home too often.
Well, they didn't do home games. When I first started broadcasting, the Mariners didn't broadcast their home games because they were afraid it would put a dent in their attendance.
Correct.
So they only telecast road games.
So
I'm going to summarize and finish what I had to say about this by including teams like Detroit and Toronto being in the same division. Cleveland and Cincinnati. There's an in-state rivalry there. There are things that could be done to really enhance the interest of baseball with realignment, in my opinion, just based on this chat we're having.
That's foul at first by an eyelash. And I agree with you. When you talked to me about it this afternoon, I thought it was a great idea. And at some point, you have to understand tradition versus reality, I guess. Baseball, like all the other sports, is in the economic fight for its life. Greatest game in the world, but if you don't evolve, you're really losing ground to the other things that are happening. And if you can play everybody every year, I want to see Mike Trout play every year. I want to see Jose Bautista every year. I'm sure teams want to see Julio Teheran or Shelby Miller for the Braves, or Chipper Jones in his time when he was playing back then. And I think that this would do more to grow the game amongst the young fans than not doing it.
Yeah, and there's going to be people who would say, well, I don't know if they could work the schedule right. Yeah, you could. The schedule's hard enough to put together now, but if you just realigned with all the same number of teams in a division and didn't have any leagues to consider, they could figure that out. There's one big hitch.
Oh, yeah.
One giant hitch.
Something that Toronto has and we don't.
That's correct.
Yeah. And so that was my last question for you.
And that is the designated hitter. There would have to be some uniform way of playing the game that either included the DH or did not. And I don't, it's just my personal opinion again, but I think down the road we're all going to have the DH at some point. I just think it's inevitable, much to my chagrin.
Sharply hit. Simmons plays that one off his chest, throws to third, and got the force out. Nice recovery by Andrelton Simmons, who's been beaten up by the baseball tonight. This is a real rarity.
Boy, he sure has. He's had some bad hops, and this one took a bite out of him. And I applaud Adonis Garcia for not being a spectator. He was still going to the bag at third in case something happened. And sure enough, he needed him to be there.
Well, I do have a way around the DH if you want to continue. You could give every team another roster player. And in the teams that were traditional National League cities, pitcher hits. And the teams that have the traditional American League cities, you use the DH. 81-81. Until you
I don't think
figure
so.
it out.
I don't think so. I think if you're going to do it, you do it.
Just go ahead and add the DH.
That's it. And not try to go into some transitional period where you're trying to get to the DH eventually. Just do it.
You're no traditionalist. Hogwash.
I am not. I am a traditionalist, but when it comes to this idea this guy had today, I started trying to figure out what you would have to do to make it work. And one of the things you'd have to do to make it work is accept the DH.
And if that's the only negative.
Bob Costas is somewhere crying his eyes out, and all the hair dye is running down his face over his ears. But other than that,
but if
you
that's
have to think about it.
Well, if that's the only negative, decreased travel, more rivalries, more fresh faces, more interest, uniqueness, newness.
And I mean, you can be a Mets fan and a Yankees fan, and other than like 6 times a year, you don't have that intense feeling you have, that crosstown rivalry. If you're in the same division, it's every day, baby. It's every day.
And I promise you, the players would love this because you're going to want to beat your rival.
Sure.
You're going to want to draft and develop and spend. I mean, the more I think about it, the more positive I get about it. So thank you for bringing it up.
Sure. Well, I'm running for president, too. I don't know if you knew that.
Well, this falls right in with your common sense party.
Common sense party.
7-1, 7th inning stretch. By Bank of America. Remember back in the early 90s, the Braves and the Blue Jays, fierce rivalry. Former President Carter threw out the first pitch to open up the World Series. You remember that blow, don't you, Joe?
Yeah, Damon Berryhill off Jack Moore's 3-run shot. This youthful looking mullet wearing left-hander. Complete game. Game 1 winner. Nice going, left-hander. Damon Berryhill, by the way, just reading a story about him today. He was the AAA manager for the Dodgers this year at Oklahoma City and did real well. So he's jumped up the ladder quickly in terms of minor league managers.
Good for Damon. How about that vintage shirt? Check that one out.
Nice.
Well, speaking of nice, David Price is still out there. I'm sure he's telling John Gibbons, I feel fine. The scoreboard certainly indicates that. And after a very light workload last time out against the Yankees, David Price wants another frame here in Atlanta. He's got the bottom part of the order coming up.
85 pitches, too. Yeah, he's been as advertised. And with a 4-run lead, all the more so. 4-run to start the game, I should say.
So Simmons will lead off. Bethancourt will follow, and then we'll see who comes up for the Braves. Dan Barawa worked 2 scoreless innings of 1 hit ball, and that's into the seats. Quickly 0-2. Mets are losing tonight. Nationals are winning tonight. Miami 4, Mets nothing. Bottom of the 8th inning in New York. Washington 8-2 over the Phillies in the 8th. Mets could lose another game in the standings today.
Yeah, the Marlins are putting a thumping on them.
As Simmons backs out. Let's see. Pitchers in Miami. Conley and Colon. That's magic number stands at 10. Games entering tonight. Swing and a miss. That's 9 strikeouts for David Price. He struck out 10 or more 4 times this year and 29 times lifetime. So keep an eye on that.
And his high with the Blue Jays was 11.
That was in his first game, right?
I believe so.
Dodgers magic numbers 11. They played 16 innings last night and set records. 5 hours and 23 minutes in LA last night. The Rockies used 30 players, including 13 pitchers. The Dodgers used 28 and 11. pitchers.
Did you see the box score? You got to look the box score up and look at that long line of pitchers.
Like the stock tables.
Yeah, it won't fit on one screen.
Unbelievable.
On your computer.
Swing and a miss by Bethancourt. It's 0-2.
Yes, 11 strikeouts in his first outing against Minnesota. He won that game 5-1. And then he beat the Yankees 6-0.
A little looper into right for Bethancourt, who's got a couple of hits tonight to go along with the base on balls. Braves wrote about 15 of those to make up for what happened in the 5th inning.
Change up. And just serve to right. They're playing him up the middle and to pull.
So Hector Olivera grabs a bat. Braves have 5 hits tonight. The Jays have doubled them up in that column. And downstairs. Texas and Houston. Rangers 8, Astros nothing.
Goodness. That's against Keuchel, right?
Yep. 5th inning. Mr. Bannister might be the manager of the year in the American League. I know you talked about that last night. Paul Molitor's done a great job with the Twins. And as we said, the Texas club was 8 games out of first place 6 weeks ago. And they have relentlessly chipped away at the Astros, who continue to get battered away from Minute Maid Park. Beltre, Prince Fielder, Cole Hamels, and a revamped bullpen have made a world of difference in Arlington. One more note on the Rangers. Heard a rumor today they might be getting a new ballpark.
What? Really?
A domed stadium.
Wow. Right there next door to Jerry's World. I guess they decided they could do the same thing.
2 balls and a strike. And Olivera didn't get it. 2-2. The Yankees are holding on 2-1 in Tampa Bay. That game's in the 7th inning. Here it's 7-1 Toronto. Swing and a shot toward left. And a great running catch by Ben Revere, who reached up at the last moment to flag that one down. Speed never slumps. Olivera hit it right on the screws and was robbed. 2 out.
Fun game when you're winning and when you're playing well. Ben Revere's played a lot of center field in his career. Can go get him. Nice jump. Perfectly timed.
Two outs for Nick Markakis. He doubled on the first pitch of the game for the Braves offense, and he's the only man to score tonight. Price remembered that, threw him a breaking ball. Strike 1. One more with Toronto, then we'll welcome the Phillies to town. Then we head to New York and a date with the Mets. Mets and Marlins, our last 2 road destinations. And that one down the right field line and pulled foul. I especially liked your realignment thing because we'd get to go to both Florida cities a lot.
Okay.
Tampa and Miami, that works.
Okay. Well, before they can even start thinking about realignment, I would guess they need to figure out what they're going to do. What's going to happen with the Tampa Bay team and the Oakland team.
Well, you know, Toronto would love one of those teams maybe to move to Montreal. How about that rivalry if it were to happen?
Yeah, that would be awesome, but they got to figure out something because both teams need a new stadium. Oakland is like an orphan out there. They want to go build a stadium. The Giants' territory extends south and they can't go there, and there's really no place, no population to go north or east of where they are. Oh,
how about that from Markakis? That's payback for his 5th inning play. Another multi-hit game for Nick. That's number 50.
Goodness, how great is that? Little cutter to the outside part. Nick didn't give up on it. Just a little flip.
And 4 multi-hit games in his last 5 overall.
That's Pete Walker, pitching coach. They don't want him wearing himself out just to get through this 1 inning. But he only needs 1 out. Maybe just a breather here.
And Daniel Castro is going to be the hitter. He's 1 for 3 on the night.
You saw that game tomorrow night, the final meeting of the year between these two teams. Matt Whistler against Estrada. Estrada's 12-8.
Daniel Castro 7 for his last 16, including a homer. And took a strike. Well, for Braves fans around the country watching this one, you hate the result, but you can't help but admire that man on the mound. He is a master craftsman. And knows when to add on, knows when to take off. And he is in great position for his 16th victory.
He's won 101 games in the big leagues, only lost 56.
Oh, 2.
And he's closing in on that 8 runs of support he's been getting from the Blue Jays offense.
I wonder if that's going to be a determining factor for him as he contemplates free agency.
It would certainly.
It's going to make you think.
Yeah.
Bouncing ball to short. David Price is through 7 with a 7-1 lead. He's terrific. Tip of the cap, a true pro's pro. David Price has a 6-hitter tonight.
Play. That was the return of Jason Grilli, the Braves nominee for the Roberto Clemente Award. And Jason talked about just how much it meant to him to be nominated and in the same conversation with Clemente.
Yeah, you know, I just have a soft spot for feeding, children and families that are hungry. Something that you can see instant gratification with. And, it's awesome to be recognized as a good player, but I think Roberto Clemente set the stage because he was a great player, but he was a better human being.
Jason was here tonight with his wife and his 2 young sons to sit and watch a little bit of the game. And guys, he talked about how good it was also to be able to get back. When he got hurt and ruptured that Achilles, he talked about how he wanted to be around this team. And it's just been tough, Joe, as you know well, going through that recovery from an Achilles injury. But he said he really appreciated the chance to get in that clubhouse and talk to some of the guys before the game tonight.
Yeah, I guarantee it, Jen, that was as much good medicine for him as anything. A good tonic, as they say. And he looks like he's doing well. He's moving around well in his boot. I think he's, what did we figure out the other day? Surgery was right around the All-Star break. So
6 weeks.
4, 5, 6, 7, might be even 7 or 8 weeks. So he's in a good spot. Hard part's over if he just makes sure he follows the protocol.
And Ryan Kelly's on to pitch. While we have a minute with Jen, this is Jen's final broadcast with us this year as our sideline reporter. She'll be hosting a little bit. And Joe and I wanted to thank you for doing such great work for us on the sideline. It's always a treat to have you around. You do great work, and you've really made our jobs a lot easier and a lot more fun to do. So thank you for all you've done for us.
Outstanding work. Way to go.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate that, and I throw the same right back at you too. Fun crew to be a part of.
So what's on your agenda next besides a few Braves Live assignments?
Yeah, I've got one Braves Live game. I'll be back hosting for that in the National Series, and then college football, college soccer.
Great. Well, good luck with that. You'll be great. And you showed that with your FIFA Women's World Cup coverage earlier this summer. So the future's bright for you, and can't wait to see you again here at the ballpark, Jen. Thanks again.
Thank you, fellas. I appreciate it.
1 out in the 8th inning. Ryan Kelly, the 4th Atlanta pitcher. Once again, Joe, the Braves bullpens had to pick up a lot of innings in relief tonight. Shelby Miller, 3 2/3 in his starting assignment tonight.
The work last night was brilliant. That gave the Braves a chance to win it in the bottom of the 9th inning. Was it 1, 2, 3 1/3 innings of no hit, no run ball. And tonight thus far, let's see what we got tonight. 2, 3 1/3 again. And they gave up, and Marimon gave up 2 runs. So 7 innings of relief work to give up 2 runs to the Blue Jays. Nice going, man.
That's really commendable work. However, it's a lot of work. And that means a little extra incentive for Matt Whistler to pitch deep into the game here tomorrow night. Marco Estrada, former Milwaukee Brewer, will take the ball for the Blue Jays. Kelly misloaded Donaldson, 3 balls and a strike. Hendricks and Loop are the Toronto relievers working now. David Price, 7 innings of 1 run, 6 hit ball. To third. Adonis has it. Fair ball. He took a look before firing across the diamond in time. 2 out.
That's because Donaldson didn't leave the box. He thought it was going to be foul.
Here's Batista.
No, he knew it was fair. He just didn't run. I didn't know he was like that.
Here's Batista. Mentioned earlier the roundabout route that Batista took to baseball stardom. It is the most inexact thing about our game, as this one's flying in the air to center, where Maven makes the play. Batista was a 20th round pick, was waived a couple of times. Rule 5 pick. Now he's an all-star and a cornerstone in Toronto.
Sports and outdoors. Right stuff, low price, every day.
While Toronto in game 2 tonight, they've exacted some revenge after the Braves beat them 3-2 last night. And as we promised you earlier in our game, we've selected our Data Strong fan photo of the game. Tweet your strongest fan photo to #SouthDataStrongFan for a chance to be featured in an upcoming broadcast. That's brought to you by T-Mobile.
Thank you, Kayla. This is Kayla W. This is Kayla.
You know, Kayla spelled backwards is Alyak. As Aaron Loop is in for the 55th time for Toronto. This is another maybe underreported thing about this Jays ball club. They've got a very good relief corps. Jays have pitched well in relief of their starting staff.
Did you see the walks and strikeouts for this guy? Oh, that's what Freddie wanted. Take David Price out of the game, you get a breather, you think, okay, here we go. And then you got this guy coming in, going Laredo on you. 6 walks, 44 strikeouts in 39 innings for Luke. And he's left-handed throwing strikes.
One pitch coming for the Braves first baseman Freddie Freeman. Aaron Loop is a Louisiana boy.
I would guess as much.
Went to Tulane at Hanville High School. That's where he lives in the offseason. 9th round pick in 2009.
Where'd you say he went to college?
Tulane.
Yeah, no, it's Tulane.
Tulane.
Like the highway.
Yeah. Tulane Highway University. Majored in digital design down there with the green wave. And he just walked Freddie Freeman. Thank you very much.
Just had to talk about it.
Right. And it's time to answer our AT&T Uverse trivia question as John Gibbons makes his way to the mound. We can answer it real quick. I'm sure we're going to hit it out of the ballpark. What's the question again? John Gibbons, 82 wins this year. Who holds the Toronto manager's record for most wins in a single season? A lot of choices. Who are you picking?
I'm going with Bobby Cox.
Okay, and I will go with Cito Gaston.
Okay.
Bobby Cox won 99 games.
Way to go, Skipper.
And they still love him in Toronto as much as we love him here in Atlanta. 7-1's your score. We continue after this.
Braves baseball is presented by Georgia Power and Zaxby's.
It's 7-1 Toronto. A man aboard in the Braves half the 8th inning. Nobody out. Fans don't miss out on a free post-game concert by one of the hottest new stars in country music, Sam Hunt. That's presented by Coca-Cola and Delta Airlines Thursday, October 1st, when the Braves beat the Nationals. Come on out and see Sam Hunt sing at Turner Field. Go to Braves.com and get your tickets tonight.
This guy's been real good lately. 5-0, 2.62 ERA, strikeout per inning, a 1.69 ERA over his last 33 games. And right-handers are only hitting a .195 against him.
He is another man who's had a long roundabout journey and might be Peter Moylan's favorite Blue Jay. He's from Australia. Liam Hendricks. Swing and a miss. He throws hard. Minnesota signed him in 2007. Cubs got him on waivers. Then Baltimore got him on waivers. Then Toronto got him on waivers. He was traded to the Royals for Danny Valencia before the deadline last year. And then Toronto wanted him back. They traded a young catcher, Santiago Nessie, to Kansas City, which had a ridiculous surplus of great bullpen arms, and still do those Royals.
Yeah, the last two pitches, 97 and 98.
And you know Hendricks is happy pitching in Toronto because they spell color and center the right way. Won't be confused pitching in one of the American League ballparks, which could have been his problem.
Could have been. He didn't know which way to go. It came to going to the Rogers Center until he got with the Blue Jays.
Right. 1 ball, 2 strikes for Adonis Garcia, who's 0 for 3 tonight.
Boy, nice stop. That wasn't an easy one.
No.
90-mile-an-hour breaking ball / sinker of some kind.
With the Braves being in the East, we really haven't seen Russell Martin a lot. We've seen him quite a bit, but when he played with the Dodgers, you'd see him twice a year. When he played with the Pirates, same story. Rare chance to see him with Toronto this year. I really think he's an underappreciated player and how he's developed and what he's meant to his teams these last couple of years. Great work with the Dodgers.
Just
Pirates.
ask the Pirates.
Yeah.
What he did for their staff.
Swing and a miss. A filthy pitch takes care of Garcia for out number 1 in the 8th. But there will be a challenge for Toronto, again, assuming they get to postseason play. He's going to have to catch R.A. Dickey. And talking with Buck Martinez, terrific broadcaster for the Jays and a former catcher himself, Russell Martin wears his defense and takes it personally. He really is more worried about what he does with the glove and his calling of the game. R.A. Dickey's a very big challenge for him as a knuckleballer. A lot of pass balls and a very difficult assignment for any catcher to catch. And that'll be an interesting thing to follow as the Jays move on later in September. I'm not suggesting he can't catch Dickey, but that's an unenviable task for a guy that's so important to this Jays offensively and behind the plate.
They don't want to take his bat out of the lineup.
Swisher didn't get it. And he's down 0-2. Let's see what's next on the docket for Toronto. They go home after the game tomorrow. Weekend set with the Red Sox, and then might be the winner-take-all series with the Yankees. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday nights. Swing and a miss. 3 pitches gets Swisher, who looks out at Hendricks.
That's the pitch that Russell Martin had to block in the dirt just moments ago. That
went almost through the 5-hole. I mean, he caught that.
Yeah, it's like a two-seamer or a cutter almost, the way it's going down.
So here's Cameron, first start back since his eye troubles crept up. He's got the hat trick, 3 strikeouts tonight. And he went in for a strike, 0-1 as we approach 10 o'clock here in Atlanta. 15,178 the announced attendance. And I'm not sure right now if Martin's catching the ball or the ball's catching him.
That's a good point. Just try to throw your glove in front of it somehow.
Little dribbler down the line, tough play. Martin scrambles and got his man. What a play. He caught that ball, didn't he? A spectacular play by Russell Martin down the third base line to rob Cameron Maybin.
And an accurate throw at that.
Let's go places. And the Georgia Lottery.
It's 7-1 Toronto. We head to inning number 9. Fans, bring your four-legged best friend to Turner Field this Sunday, September 20th. It's Bark in the Park Day. For only $32, get a human ticket, a canine ticket, a Braves ceramic dog bowl, and see the Braves take on the Phillies. That's right, Bark in the Park Day.
That's old Lance Barksdale right there. First base umpire tonight.
We should make him stay for the next series.
Tell you what, Gary Lehman's on top of it, isn't he?
So are you going to bring Tilly?
No. No, Tilly won't be here.
No?
No.
Sugar Bean?
Nope. No, they'll be at home.
I mean, these are the dog days and all. I mean,
I know, but it's hard to pry either one of them away from Kathy's side. Joined at the hip.
Encarnacion's had a perfect night. Bad finger kept him out of the game last night. Braves haven't solved him tonight. Swing and a miss. 2-1. Talked a lot about Bautista's roundabout trip to stardom. Encarnacion's right there with him.
That can't feel good when his left hand slips off the bat like that.
.42 homers, his career high. That was in 2012. He's sitting on 32 this year. 110 RBIs, also a career mark. He's one away from 100. And would be the third J in triple digits when he gets there. And his perfect night continues. 3 singles, 2 walks. And Kelly allows his first base runner. And here's Russell Martin. Counting their 6-run advantage tonight, the Toronto Blue Jays have outscored their opponents by an astounding 193 runs this year. 193 more runs. And the Jays fans give Encarnacion a big hand. Munenori Kawasaki, who's become a cult hero in Toronto, is the pinch runner. A couple of years ago, he had a couple of big games for the Blue Jays, if memory serves, and he's trying to learn English, and in a very heavy Japanese accent, was interviewed on one of the Blue Jays post-game shows and was just absolutely charming. How excited he was, how happy he was to be in the major leagues and playing well and contributing.
I think that was against the Braves, because it seems like we were there, and
might have been.
He was getting the shaving cream pie in the face, and he was loving that.
"16 games now with Toronto for Kawasaki. Played 62 games at Buffalo. That's the Toronto AAA affiliate. Swing and a miss by Martin.
Boy, that's convenient for them. That's in a different country and across the lake, but it's almost as close as it is between Atlanta and Gwinnett.
Right. Kawasaki got his start as he leads from first with the Mariners. And then made his way to Toronto. 2013, played 96 games, 82 games last year.
So they had a Suzuki and a Kawasaki. If they just had a Harley somewhere, they'd have it covered, wouldn't they?
Right. Rubber match of the series will be in Atlanta tomorrow night. Jays lead this one handily, 7-1. Yankees keeping pace. They're up 3-1 in the 9th inning down in Tampa Bay. Miami shut out the Mets 6-0. Washington clobbered the Phillies 12-2. Don't know if it's too little too late for Washington, but the Mets know a thing or two about epic collapses in late September, so nothing decided yet in the East.
Conley started that game for Miami against Cologne.
Goins waits on deck. Full count pitch. In the air, well hit center. Maben turns. That ball is launched and gone. Russell Martin hits a home run to center field in the top of the 9th inning. A 4 RBI night, and he's got 20 homers.
He knew it. Didn't take long for us to know it.
.21 homers is his career high. That came with the Yankees.
Second straight outing for Kelly to give up a late homer.
We had a graphic last night that talked about the number of times Toronto had scored 10 runs in a game. It was 24 as a high hopper handled it first Takes care of Goins for the first out. They've scored 9 runs 30 some odd times this year. I mean, this is just a relentless, ruthless, power laden, ABC, patient Toronto offense. I'm a believer. I'm buying them. Granted, we haven't seen all the teams in the American League, but
if they're starting pitching behind David Price can do a respectable job, they can have about a 4 or 5 ERA and still win games.
There's a rocket by Kevin Pillar. Kelly's giving the Braves everything he's got, but might be running on fumes. And Edwin Jackson is getting ready in the pen. He's been up for a while. And Pennington's the hitter. He's 0 for 3. 12 hits for Toronto. So 31 times this year the Jays have scored 9 runs in a game. 24 times they've scored 10.
That's fun. That's fun when you're wearing those blue jerseys and know every night when you come to the park that somewhere in the middle of your lineup, top of your lineup, bottom of your lineup, somebody's going to pop one, and maybe they'll hit 2 or 3.
But they aren't perfect when they score 9 or 10. They really need to work on that, Joe. They're only 53 and 3.
Okay.
When they score 9 or 10 runs in a game.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So the next question is, how do the Toronto Blue Jays do against the elite teams in the other divisions? 4 and 3 against Kansas City. They're 4 and 2 against Texas. 3 and 4 against Houston, including 0 and 4 at Minute Maid Park. How does that happen?
Wow.
And
against the Yankees,
11 and 5. Ooh. Including 8 and 2 at Yankee Stadium. Ezequiel Carrera is going to hit with 1 out. Beg your pardon, with 2 outs. Hendricks was impressive. 1 inning with a couple of strikeouts. And a ground ball to first. Freddie's got that. And that'll take care of Toronto in the top of the 9th inning. Big night for Russell Martin. Bookend, 2 RBI hits. A first inning double, a 9th inning homer. And it's all Toronto. advertised, he earns our SunTrust Save of the Game honors.
Without question. He gave up the run in the first inning, but other than that, he pretty much glided through his 7 innings of work tonight. Gave up 6 hits, that 1 run, walked a couple, struck out 9. First 4 strikeouts he recorded were all by called third strikes. First 3, I should say. You're seeing all 9 of them tonight as he will coast to a win unless the Braves can come up with a titanic comeback here against Ryan Tepera, who has been very good for them. His numbers at Buffalo, he got called up September 1st. 21 outings with Buffalo. He had a 1.06 ERA, and hitters hit 138 against him.
Wow. Justin Smoke takes over at first for Encarnacion. Carrera is in for Batista in right. And Tepera is the 4th Toronto pitcher. Meanwhile, David Price was 1/2 of the pitching matchup tonight. Unfortunately for Shelby Miller, another start and another loss. 22 consecutive starts now without a win. That matches Carl Morton, who also did that from 1975 to 1976 here in Atlanta. And you'll look at the scoreboard and say, okay, no run support, and that's true, but unfortunately Shelby's fate was sealed in the first inning when Toronto got 4 runs against him almost in a blink of an eye. And against David Price, 4 is far too many the way he's been pitching. Strike 3. Simmons is caught looking, flips the bat in frustration. One of the toughest men in the game to strike out has been struck out 3 times tonight. It's been that kind of night for Andrelton.
Target inside, a cutter that Russell Martin moved over the plate. That really wasn't on the plate. Andrelton knew it. Bad call. Hate to say a 9-1 call. It shouldn't be that way, but it's kind of what it looked like.
So Christian Bethancourt hits with the bases empty. He's doubled, singled, and walked tonight. And he's got 3 hits. So that'll get him over 200, I would think.
.204. Stayed with that breaking ball. And stayed inside and allowed him to turn on it. Good night for Bethancourt.
Jace Peterson's the batter for the Braves. Had a long chat with Jace in the locker room before the game tonight. Asked him, here we are, mid-September. What have you learned about yourself, and what have you learned about being an everyday player in the big leagues? And like so many young players, the first thing he said was, man, it's a long year. It's the most games Jace has played, he said, in any professional season that he can recall. So that's an adjustment. He said, too, that as the team's strikeout leader, he said that's really surprising to me because I didn't really strike out a lot anywhere along the line in the minor leagues. He said, I know that's something that I have to work on, and I will fix that. But he's had I think, an excellent first full season with the Braves and has come along very nicely at second base.
Yeah, and I think the fatigue was a factor. I think that was kind of obvious over the last couple of weeks, especially. So these last 2 days, getting them off should help him recharge a little bit. I'm sure he'll be back in there tomorrow.
Bethancourt out. Peterson safe. 2 outs. Bethancourt standing at second base, looking in the dugout, wondering if he truly was tagged or maybe he was called out of the baseline. Either way,
I think he was. Yeah, I think he ran too far away from him.
And Ryan Blakeney was the man that just pointed at him and called him out. Let's take a look.
did dodge him, but he was too far out of the line on this one. No doubt.
Nick Markakis has 2 of the Braves' 7 hits. They both came against David Price. 50 multi-hit games for Nick now. And with his 2 additional hits, Markakis up to 168 of them. Let's see, hits leaders in the National League. D. Gordon's got to be at or near the top of that list. He is. A.J. Pollock at 169. Markakis 1 behind him for 3rd place. Up and away. 2 balls hit a strike.
It's laughable up there that says on the big screen that Nick is 6'1", 175. He's the biggest 175 I've ever seen.
Line drive to right, and that's going to end the ball game. Markakis hit it on the screws, but the Blue Jays have even the series at a game apiece behind David Price and 4 first-inning runs. Price now 16-5. Shelby Miller drops his 15th game of the year. And the Toronto Blue Jays and Braves will wrap up the series here tomorrow night at Turner Field. 9-1 tonight's final.
The United telecast is presented